What is going on, everyone? And today we're going to be counting down my top 10 favourite films of 2023. Now, last week we had a very heated discussion about the 10 worst films, and I'm keen to do something a little bit more positive today. Now, 2023, I will say, was a cracking year for films, at least in my opinion. There was so many just fun film. There was a good variety of everything. There was some good horror films, there was some good action films, there was some good historical dramas, there were some good blockbusters. I just thought it was a really good year, and today we're going to be counting down my 10 favourites. Now, next week, we'll be ranking all 41 films that I saw in 2023, all 41 new releases that I saw, and I'm excited to do that. So that video will be a lot more brief, but today I'm going to go decently in depth with my 10 favourites, so let's go and jump into it now. Now, this is going to show you how good of a year it is for films when number 10 on my list is Killers of the Flower Moon. Now, this is Martin Scorsese's latest film, and it is a really, really harrowing, but really, really interesting piece of American history. Now, it definitely takes its time finding its feet. There are, a lot of things happening in the first hour, and the film is absurdly long. It's 3.5 hours. The first hour is definitely a bit of a drag, but the last 2.5 hours are just excellent and really, really just interesting and really, really gripping and well done, and you're just waiting for everything to crumble, and it's spectacular. I think the performances here are all really great. You got Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro in the film playing these two characters that are just quite despicable. DiCaprio plays a bit of a dickhead, actually. A dickhead's probably too light of a word. What I mean is he's not smart, really. He's more just like a pawn for Robert De Niro's character, and it's really interesting seeing him be kind of more manipulated rather than him being, the one doing everything, he did in Wolf of Wall Street. He was the mastermind of it all. This one, he's very much not. And he does a great job with that. But I think the best actor in the film was Lily Gladstone. If she doesn't win the Oscar for Best Actress, I'll be a little bit pissed off, because she was fantastic in this film. She manages to hold her own against two of the greats, directed by one of the greats, and seriously, it is just amazing what she does. And I think that it's a very, very interesting of a true story too. It's very terrible what happened, and it's good to learn about it too. So that's why I think it's an interesting enough story to learn about. It's definitely not the kind of thing I'm ever going to rewatch because it's just so long. But once you watch it, you'll be like, yeah, that's interesting. It's unbelievable that people could do such terrible things, and it definitely leaves you feeling a little bit icky. And the way it wraps up is very, very just anticlimactic, but in a way that's perfect for the story, if that makes sense. It's very much just oh god, yeah. So Killers of the Flower Moon, I really enjoyed it. I think the performances are all fantastic, and that's what really carried this film. But it's also nice seeing a piece of history represented on the big screen. At number 9 for me, we have Ridley Scott's Napoleon. Now, I think that this film is quite misunderstood by a lot of people, actually. On top of everything, this film is one of the best comedies that I have seen all year. I laughed all throughout this film, and I mean that in the best possible way. It's nice to see a historical epic that doesn't take itself overly seriously at all. But that is not to say that it isn't well done or that it's a complete piss take, because the battle sequences are outstanding in this film. Really, really gritty, really disgusting, really, really exciting, and really well done. It's just brilliant. And I think that some people don't appreciate what it does with Joaquin Phoenix's character of Napoleon. Well, he was a real person, but Ridley Scott decides to take Napoleon and make him a bit of a doofus. And it's really, really funny. I think he does a great job at playing this kind of just not necessarily dumb, but just kind of like a bit of a half-wit. And I really, really thought it was a really interesting portrayal of him. I thought his relationship with his wife, Josephine, was amazing, and Vanessa Kirby did a great job. It was very, very, like, volatile and angry, but almost like, they were just, brutally banging just to hide the fact that they hated each other. And it was just really both fascinating and funny. And this film is like about 2.5 hours, a bit over 2.5 hours maybe, and it flew by for me. The story does feel kind of condensed, but that's okay, because I feel like this film isn't supposed to be like, the kind of, a really meditative and grand journey of Napoleon's entire life. It's definitely just a funny movie it's just, I'd say it's a historical epic that takes a humorous look at his life. And I think this film's got a bit of a bad rap, because I thought it was absolutely excellent. And the way I'm going to end off describing it is, you think there are so many books and stuff like that, and so much information that you can get on Napoleon Bonaparte's life. So why does this film have to be the exact same thing again? Why can Ridley Scott not have a bit of fun with it? That's my mindset, and that's the way I look at this movie. He's having a good time. He made an entertaining and interesting movie. Doesn't mean everything has to be perfectly historically accurate. That's the way it is, and I absolutely loved it. Number 8 on my list, we have Wes Anderson's new film, Asteroid City. Now, this is unlike any film I think I've ever seen before. This film is insanely ambitious. It is insanely weird and creative and out there. It's probably the most Wes Anderson film Wes Anderson's ever made. And for people who aren't fans of Wes Anderson, I can't see you liking this. For someone like me who does like Wes Anderson, I absolutely adored it. This is one of those films, just one of those special films that every day, I think about this film most days, and every day I just love it more and more. I'm like, wow, that is really something. To be able to do something that crazy with that many layers, that funny, that heartfelt, it's just absolutely brilliant. I think that this has one of the funniest things I've seen in 2023 in films. About halfway through the film, there's a scene that just left me nearly pissing my pants. I think that the score is amazing. I love the abstract nature of everything. Like, you're like, is this really... What am I looking at exactly? Everything is just so flat. The sky looks like a big wall. What is actually going on? Is this real world? I know it's supposed to be a play, but like, how did they construct this? This looks like nothing I've ever seen before. It's just, you're constantly asking these questions in your head, and you're constantly trying to piece everything together, wondering how it all fits in with each other, and all the different stories and stuff like that. And it's just spectacular. I think that this might be my favourite film of his, actually. Oh, God, I just love it. And the relationship, Jason Schwartzman and his kids, and the way they're dealing with what it is that they're going through, I find really, really spectacular. Really, really great. I adored it. I think it was just great. Number 7 on my list is the biggest surprise of the year for me, and that is Saw 10. Now, if you had have told me at the start of the year that the 10th Saw film would end up in my top 10 favourite films of the year, I would have told you that you were smoking crack. But good God, was this film better than it had any right to be, and it was better than any other Saw film. This is the best Saw film. This isn't just a good Saw film, this is a great Saw film. This takes the character of John Kramer and turns him into an anti-hero. Someone that you can somewhat sympathise with. You don't necessarily condone what's going on, but you can absolutely see where he's coming from and take pleasure in it, because it is just a film. You can take pleasure in what he's doing. You're like, yep, fuck them up. His story and the way he's given so much hope and then it's just ripped away from him is very, very, very sad. And I think that this is the only Saw film where you can actually feel something other than just laughing at the stupidity of it all. You really buy into his plight and his problems and just what he's going through, and the feeling that he realizes when he realizes he's been scammed is just brutal. And that makes it all the more satisfying when in the second half of the film, and that's the thing, it is basically just the second half of the movie that it turns into the Saw film. The first half is really just him trying to cure his cancer and make the most of living, like living while he can, and then realizing that he has been cured and he's got the rest of his life ahead of him before that's just taken away. And then the second half is when it just gets into all the good Saw stuff. And this is great Saw stuff. This is some of the most gruesome traps in the entire franchise. You squirm and feel icky. It gives him a villain like to go head to head against in Cecilia, who is just a horrifying villain. And that kind of does give me a bit of a problem with the film. Her story wasn't rounded off perfectly, I don't think, but that only, gives more potential for the next Saw film that's coming out later this year, which I'm hyped for. I just think that Saw 10 was unbelievably good. It was unbelievably exciting. There was so much heart to it. The iconic Hello Zep scene is brilliant as well. Really exciting. This film gave me just everything I wanted from a Saw film. I absolutely loved it. And it is number 7 on my list. This is one of those ones that makes me excited. I loved it. I absolutely adored it. Oh God. Number 6 on my list. This is not a joke. Five Nights at Freddy's. Look, I can understand that this film is flawed. The pacing is wacky as hell. It is repetitive with the dream sequences. The plot is stupid and convoluted and it's just a bunch of nonsense. And if you're looking for a killer animatronic movie, you're not just gonna get that. But I still think that this is a great movie. And I'm absolutely biased because I love the games and I always have, and seeing it on the big screen was just exciting. To me, it captured everything that a Five Nights at Freddy's movie should be. It captured the vibes. It actually captured the creep factor of it. There are some parts when he's just at the start walking around the restaurant and he peels back the curtains and sees them just standing there. I find that really, really menacing and creepy. I think Matthew Lillard does a great job here. He's very, very insane and very, very, just classic Matthew Lillard. Josh Hutcherson does a great job at selling his character and his story and his kind of mixed emotions about things. He's got, obviously, this one thing that happened in his past that he's kind of trying to rectify now and realizing that, hang on, there's a connection between what happened in the past and the place that I'm working at now. What the hell is going on? While also managing to care for his younger sister, who he's in a custody battle with. And I will say, the ghost story side of things is nonsense. But so are the games. So are the games. The games are 100 times more convoluted and silly than this. And honestly, that's why we come to a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. We see, stupid ghost children possessing robot animals. That's what it is. It's ridiculous. But I'd be lying if I said it wasn't entertaining as all hell. The music by the Newton Brothers is great too. It is just perfect. That really, again, helps capture the essence of the games. And the inside of the pizzeria itself is great. And there's so much about this film that works for me. The Jim Henson Creature Shop animatronics are great. The use of Talking in Your Sleep by the Romantics is pretty funny and creepy in parts. I just loved this movie. I just really loved it, and I'm absolutely biased, but I don't think I've ever been more excited for a film, and I don't think I've ever had more fun in the theatre watching this film. Seeing just these characters on the big screen in real life. It's just like, it was magical to watch. And again, it wasn't just for fan service. It actually tried to do some things. It tried to do some interesting things. The Mario movie is another video game adaptation that I think completely fell on its face because it was nothing but fan service and kind of soulless corporate fan service at that, almost as though someone kind of just looked up a bunch of niche things in Mario games. But this film really, really captured it for me. It captured the spirit. It was just wacky and entertaining and campy, and I loved it. Number 5 on my list, we have Talk to Me. Now, I'm not going to talk about this film too much because I've already made 2 pretty long reviews about this film, one discussing it in spoilers and one spoiler-free. But basically, this is just a brilliant thrill ride and just an unbelievable debut. I think that possession films are just pretty dull and repetitive. This one, while it is still somewhat derivative, it is a unique enough spin where you're like, okay, well, I haven't seen that kind of thing before. I haven't seen possession be used as a party game before or like a way to get high. And that's what this film ends up being about to me, is drug addiction and just addiction in general. And the feeling of, being trapped to something, enjoying something so much, but hating it so much at the same time. I found this to be very fascinating. I didn't find it particularly scary, but I did find it quite thrilling and disturbing in parts. There was nothing about it. It was probably just the hyperbolic reactions of people saying, scariest movie since Hereditary. And I'm like, no, not at all. But that doesn't mean it wasn't a fantastic film in its own rights. And Talk to Me is great, and I'm very excited for the sequel, Talk to Me. Like the number 2. Number 4 on my list is another surprise to me, and that is Eli Roth Thanksgiving. I can't stress enough how much I love this movie. It is just absurd as like how good this turned out to be. So Eli Roth is not a director that I love. He's obviously very passionate. His things have kind of not necessarily missed more times than they've hit, but always his movies are just like almost 50-50 of just really good shit, but really bad shit. And this was the first time I've actually seen a movie of his where I'm like, that is fucking brilliant. That is so good. Why? Where have you been? What have you been doing with this Cabin Fever stuff like that? Cabin Fever, Hostel, Knock Knock. Like, what are you doing? I do like all those movies. But they are very, very, like, just... I don't even know how to describe them. But this is a classic slasher. A new holiday classic for me. And I just think it sticks to the conventions, but it does it so well. I love the fact that there is no bars are held in this. There is just brutal kill after brutal kill after brutal kill in a way that's not gratuitous. You don't watch it and you're like, oh, this is kind of weird and not that enjoyable. You're watching it and you're just like, holy shit, this is awesome. There is just guts everywhere and shit. I love the design of the killer. I love the voice of the killer. There is a scene near the end that's kind of a little bit reminiscent of Texas Chainsaw's dinner scene that I think is an all-timer, and it's just so memorable and so scary and twisted. I love the identity of the killer. I love the motivation. It's not necessarily revolutionary, but it's a lot of fun. And I love that this film has shit to say, too. It's not just a slasher with annoying teens getting killed off, which it is that. But it has stuff to say about consumerism and the way humans will do whatever they can to get what they need before considering anyone else. And it also says stuff about social media and viewing things. And this is I mentioned it in my review. I open up Instagram on my phone, like scroll down to like for 5 videos. I see just a shitload of cars being flattened. And I'm like, I'm sorry, is this people really dying? And there's like 800,000 likes And it's like, what the fuck? And then you watch this movie and it's like, yeah, no, this shit shouldn't be used for views or for like clout or anything or attention. This is bad shit. And that's what this movie talks about as well. Constantly tagging people and streaming kills and stuff like that. Like, it's a mixture of funny and thought-provoking. This movie's just got no shame. I love every second of this. This was so much fun, and I cannot wait to watch it again. Number 3 on my list is a film that I'm actually surprised is still as high as it is, because when I first watched it, I thought, this is absolutely amazing. But then a couple of months afterwards, I'm like, look, I'm probably going to get the Blu-ray soon and rewatch it, and it'll probably, drop down a bit. I sat at home and rewatched this film, and it still went as hard as it did. And that is Evil Dead Rise. Holy shit. What a film. This is a 90-minute just carnage thrill ride that manages to hold on to what makes the Evil Dead so good, while also progressing the franchise forward. Instead of just being like at a cabin or a lake, this time it takes place in a high-rise apartment building. Now, yeah, obviously Army of Darkness didn't take place at a cabin, but at the same time, I don't consider that to be on the same wavelength as the first 2 films in the remake. It's more of like a comedy, bloody comedy kind of thing. This marks a turning point for the franchise for me, and a damn good turning point. Instead of it just being a bunch of horny, annoying teen characters, I love Ash, but the rest of them all suck. This film turns the victims into a family, where you are actually following the victims, the people that are facing his possession. It's a mother, her sister, and the mother's 3 kids. And that makes it a whole lot more stressful and scary to me, because you kind of have this connection to them. It's like, it's flesh and blood, and they obviously really care for each other, whereas in the other ones, they're kind of just like, oh, get fucked, whatever. I don't care by the time that happens. But for the entirety of this movie, they will do anything that they can to protect their family. But that also doesn't mean that it loses the fun carnage-filled side of it, because there are definitely side characters that bite it in dark and twisted ways, and it still has that humour. The film is very gritty, looking, but I think it really works for the film. I know some people have complained about it being too dark, just visually too dark. I think it's great. There is just a shitload of amazing sequences, bloody sequences that some will make you retch and turn your eyes away. The final girl, Beth, is badass as all hell. I think this is a perfect Evil Dead film, and it's actually my favourite in the franchise. That might be it's definitely going to be a bit of a hot take, considering how much of a classics the first 2 are. But this film just gets everything right. Number 2 on my list, we have Godzilla -1. Now, again, like Saw 10, if you had told me that a Godzilla film would be in my top 10, let alone at number 2 of my list, I would have told you that you're a fucking moron. But holy shit, this film is quite literally the Top Gun Maverick of 2023 for me. There is, in a certain way, that's kind of weird actually. Basically, what I mean by that is that the action sequences in this film are just as exhilarating as they were in Top Gun Maverick for me. I was on the edge of my seat. There are some parts where the music just cuts out and there's just Godzilla is just swerving through the ocean towards the boat. No music whatsoever, but it's just this long crocodile-looking thing in kind of a Jaws-inspired way. And it is just the most tense thing ever. If you have shit coming out of your ass will just shoot it straight back up into your guts, because you'll be clenching your cheeks so hard. And not only was it an amazing action film with loads of standout sequences and a finale that is just insanely, your heart will be pounding out of your mouth. This film captures the horror of Godzilla and what Godzilla is supposed to be. A kind of animalistic version of the atomic bomb. and the devastation that brought to Japanese cities. And this is a post-World War II film, and it's just unbelievable. And the title I found really interesting too, is like, during World War II, whenever they got bombed, it was like, Japan was 2, then they were 1, and then they were 0 at the end of World War II, like at the bottom of the barrel. And then Godzilla came out and they were -1. Like, they were in the worst possible state that they possibly could be. And I found that really interesting. I did have to read about that. But that just shows that there is so much to this film. It just captures the horror. Like, you are actually watching it and you were like, holy shit, this thing is huge. I travelled about 90 minutes to an IMAX theatre to see this. Like, 90 minutes there and 90 minutes back. So 3 hours of travelling in total. It was worth every fucking second of it. Because not only was it just a great action film, it wasn't just a great horror film, it wasn't just a great kaiju film. This was one of the best dramas I've seen. I'm going to say this is the second best drama I've seen. If this was just a film, no Godzilla at all, the drama of this film and the way things were in World War II, post-World War II Japan, is just unbelievable. The main character is a kamikaze pilot, which, immediately you're like, wait, he's a kamikaze pilot, why the fuck is he a main character? He should be dead. But that's what makes it so interesting. And you're like, how could you possibly live... Like, how could you do that? Like, when you're sent out to fight to literally kill yourself for your own country. Like, the thought of that is horrifying. And because he survives and a lot of the people that, like, his crew doesn't, he's left with this horrible survivor's guilt that is just such a gut punch. And the way the Rise of Godzilla kind of provides a second chance for him to potentially do something for everyone else and also die in the process, because that's what he was supposed to do. Just that whole idea, and just the characters that he meets and the relationships that he forms, and that, like, contrasting what he might have to do to just internally redeem himself, even if it means dying and leaving these loved ones behind. It's just unbelievably gut-wrenching and brilliantly executed. It's so well acted. This is a perfect film on all levels. This movie is so good. This is so good. But despite how good this film is, there is still one more. And surprising enough, well, not really that surprising of a pick, but surprising that Godzilla -1 and my number one pick have a lot in common. And number one on my list is Oppenheimer. Basic, Nolan fanboy, whatever. I don't care. This is his best film. And this is coming from someone that The Prestige is in my top 10 favourite films of all time. This is his best. This is an epic film. I just don't understand how he could go about making something this insane. Like, how do you sit down and think about this? How do you make something so complex and so let's just talk about the script first. How can you make a script that is so complex and intricate, and how do you order it? How is it, like, it's in a non-linear order? How do you go about doing that and making it the most digestible way for the audience? Because I feel like this film would have been a lot less digestible if it had have been a linear script, because so many small things from, like, the start of the film appear at the end of the film. Like, if I was looking at it chronologically, there's so many things that appear and re-pop up again, and people. It's just brilliantly done. It's like an unbelievable jigsaw puzzle that he's managed to put together just perfectly in the script. Not only that, he has to give his actors time to breathe and do what they need to do. And Cillian Murphy absolutely kills it here. You just feel everything from him. He doesn't really speak that much. He only speaks when he needs to speak. but his facial expressions and everything is just unbelievable. And the way that he can convey that through a constantly turning script that is constantly invigorating and changing and everything. The way he performs in this film is amazing. And especially because it's not like, just one man's progression. It's one man going through all the different motions for 3 hours. It's just brilliant. It's not a straight, just straight storyline. He has to channel everything in him to be able to do this. And just the feeling of horror that you have not only killed innocent people, but that you have put the entire world in danger. And some of the scenes when he's feeling that, at some of the speeches and when they're all stamping their feet, it is just horrifying. This film is terrifying for the way it makes you feel about what is going on in the world. The test bomb sequences in this, not only are they outstanding and the silence is used to create deafness, but they make you think this was a secret bomb test no one knew about, out in the middle of nowhere. And that makes you think. And the consequences, they said there's a chance that the world could be destroyed because of this. What is going on now in the world? What is going on right now on the 13th of January in 2024? What is going on that we aren't being told that could be potentially world-ending? Now, that could be just leading to silly conspiracy theories, but the point is that the world is kind of fucked up. There's a lot of bad shit happening. And what are people doing to protect themselves? And what are people doing to attack other people? And what is the consequences of that are being kept secret? It's one of those films that when you leave, you feel a little less safe at night. It makes you think. I think about this film most days because there's just so much happening in the world right now. And the fact that this all happened, it's unsettling as hell. And it's definitely the film that's made the biggest impact on me. I left just shook, literally shook. Those last few lines of dialogue and the visuals are just insane. There is no other way to put it. It is just insane how incredible this film is. And I don't think Christopher Nolan could ever top this. I don't think any of the actors could. I don't think Ludwig Göransson, I think that's his name, the guy that did the score for this film, perfect score, brilliant score. The film is brilliantly edited. Robert Downey Jr. is also great in this film. There's something about this film that's just special. It's like Godzilla -1. It's like, how do you go about doing this? How do you do something like this and make it so damn good? I just seriously think, I don't think I'm ever going to see a film like this again. I need to stop because there's just so much to say, but I could be here forever if I kept saying it. Anyway, Oppenheimer is my number one, and it's fucking brilliant. Anyway, that is it for my top 10 favourite films of 2023. Let me know what your favourite films of 2023 are, and I'll see you all next week when I do my ranking of all 41 films that I saw. I'll see you all then. Bye.